It's like take 4 again, because my flipping video keeps cutting out, and I got this light shining on my face right now, kind of, even though it's not really light. It's actually very cloudy outside right now. So I was gonna see if I can figure out where I left off from. I'm gonna open the window actually here. Turn on the air just a teeny bit. So I was talking about Blair White. If you guys don't know who Blair White is a transgender person. I was just kind of talking about him / her a little bit. In the sense that he seems to at least be a person who is doing well, or at least better than most mentally, because he, from what I could pick up at least, he seems to be a person who is a man biologically, but he seems to like acknowledge the fact that he at least was a male at one point in his life, or he technically still is, but that he didn't like the way he was physically, therefore he changed physically into a female. But he seems to be doing at least better mentally, in the sense that he's able to have conversations with people who disagree with him on what he believes, and he doesn't think that people are dehumanizing him just because they disagree with him. Versus, you know, compare that to most people in the transgender community, who they just deny the fact that they are born either male or female according to biology, and then they spend their whole lives essentially trying to convince everyone else that they're not who they are, who they think that they are, and you know, it really just kind of falls back into that whole thing of like, man, if you're someone who just doesn't know who you are, what you are, where you fit into the world. And even to some degree, when you're trying to find acceptance in others, that's a recipe for disaster. I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience here, man. Like, you know, even to some degree, you know, like I started picking up music because of that. You know, to some degree, I probably did certain things in my life that were out of an impulse, because I felt like if I had did that thing, that I would get acceptance from people. That way, then people would accept me as a human being. And the more, and maybe this is just something that people have to experience. You know, like the majority of people who hit adolescence, who are in a phase of transgenderism, like 80-some% of those kids eventually grow, by adulthood, they just come to grips with who they are as a person, and then they live a decent life. And I don't think at all that that's very odd, or I don't think that there's anything bizarre or off about that. You know, it comes back to that. I can't remember if I mentioned it in this video or the last one, because the video cut off. But you know, the whole thing of the truth shall set you free. You know, I think it was the one that I was trying to re-record. The truth will set you free. Now, it sounds easy. It sounds great. Uh-oh. It's a lightning warning. Yeah, and that verse cannot be any more true. I mean, you look at Blair White, you look at the rest of the transgender community, people who at least have come to grips with what the truth is, they seem to be living a decent lifestyle. And look, if you want to, you know, no one is stopping you from being what you want to be. Okay, yes, the truth will set you free, but no one said that admitting the truth would be easy, or that finding the truth would be easy, or easy to accept. You know, whether we're talking about a world with God or a world without God, the concept is still the same. It still rings true. If we're talking about living in a time of grace, where we have the freedom to make whatever decisions we want now, and then we essentially pay for it later, on Judgment Day after we die, the concept is still true. Like, there are still consequences that happen to us today while we're here on Earth. Not necessarily depending on what you do, but we're not going to be eternally judged here on this earth for the things that we do necessarily, but our actions do have consequences. And likewise, in a world without, let's just say, you know, God doesn't exist, and if we're just talking about living in America, you have the freedom to do whatever you want to do. You have the freedom to be whatever you want to be, but that doesn't mean that everyone else has to accept that. That doesn't mean that everyone else has to go along with that. But it also doesn't mean that just because that they don't support you, that they somehow see you as less human. I know that there are some people out there who do, but that doesn't mean that everyone does. the worst thing that you can do for yourself is live in a world of in an oppression of your own making, which is essentially the sense to where you feel that someone else has to give you the okay to do something in order for you to be happy. Obviously, you know, if you pick something as taboo as telling other people that they have to see you as a gender that you just simply aren't, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. If you want to say that you are the opposite sex of what you really are, no one is stopping you from doing that. Especially the lack of acceptance. The lack of acceptance is probably one of the most intangible things that someone could possibly do to like prevent you from doing something. But even someone not accepting you is not preventing you from doing something. It's just telling people that you feel insecure about who you claim to be, and that we have to go along with it in order for you to feel okay. Otherwise, you're going, I don't know, to do something drastic, or that you're going to feel like your life is being threatened. I mean, really, it sounds to me like you just want to kill yourself. And look, I'm sorry if that's the case. No one wants you to kill yourself. But we also don't want you to think that you are something that you are not to be. And this is what would be classified under the category of a mental illness. And it, to some degree. And it's sad. Like, I'm not using that as an insult. That's just what it is. You know, there are people out there who think that radios are talking to them, or that, vehicles are talking to them, or whatever the case may be, and we know that's not true. But we don't want to further continue down the road of living in their delusion, because it's not good for us and it's not good for them. They obviously have a problem that they need to deal with. That's something with their head mentally. But the best thing to do in that situation is not to tell that person that what they are saying is true. It's not good for a society, it's not good for them, and it's not good for us. But it still is sad if something happens. Like, I don't want people who feel like their identity is being threatened, to feel like they have to kill themselves so that their lives are being threatened, because they're not. But that fits into the mental illness. You think that because we don't agree with you, or that we just don't really care to go down the road that you're going down, that somehow means that we're attacking you, that somehow means that somehow you feel that your life is being threatened by us. It's simply not. Nobody wants to kill you just because we don't agree with your lifestyle. Okay, like I don't feel like you guys want to kill me just because you might disagree with everything that I'm saying right now. In fact, I'm going to go home later tonight and I'm going to sleep just fine. But that's part of the mental illness that I think is associated with transgenderism. Again, it's not the thing itself. If you look at Blair White, he seems to be doing fine mentally. But if you want, I'm even going to try to help you here. If you want to live a life of transgenderism, or being whatever genders exist out there, try this method and see if it doesn't help. Try this method first and see if in doing this you don't somehow end up becoming less miserable. Okay, I'm going to point you to Blair White. If you were born with a penis or a vagina, I encourage you to take the steps and start telling yourself, I was born a male if you were born with a penis, or I was born a female if you were born with a vagina. Whatever you feel after that, feel free to do so. But at least come to the basic understanding and knowledge that the way that you were born physically is what you are. If you were born with a penis, you are a male. If you were born with a vagina, you are a female. After you get past that, then go ahead and see if something doesn't change. See if your feelings maybe go in a different direction or whatever. Because no one is going to sit here and tell you that you are a male or a female or another gender just because you feel like it. Okay, sometimes I feel like the world is out to get me. Does that mean that it's true? Probably not. It probably just means that I'm very stressed and that I have a lot on my mind, because usually that's when these kinds of thoughts start popping up. And once I talk to my wife about it, once I admit it, once I cry about it, whatever the case may be, once I do that, I feel so much better, and I no longer feel as if the world is out to get me anymore. So, and when we're talking, especially when we're talking about all these genders, You know, can you imagine how big these applications would be if we had to put every single gender that existed in now that apparently they just keep going, like they're just new ones being made up every single day. When we're talking about a societal structure, it's all we want really is to just come to a basic agreement and acceptance that if you were born with a penis, you are a male. If you were born with a vagina, you are a female. You can still feel however you want to feel. You can still do the things to your body that you want to do, but for the sake of brevity, for brevity's sake, is it too much to ask a society that's supposed to be based on civility and decency to just simply say on an application that you are either a male or a female based on birth based on biology? And if we're talking theologically, based on God. I mean, if we're talking about theology, God was very clear. When he made animals and humans, he made it very clear that he said he made them male and female. There was nothing in between, there was nothing extra, there was nothing period. There's nothing else. It was just those two things. And I don't know if there's really anything else I want to talk about, but man, it's like no one's out there trying to stop you. No one out there except you is trying to stop you from being who you are. It might not look the way that you think it's supposed to look, but I really think that that's the case. If you are someone who has a penis and you think you're a woman and you want to pay thousands of dollars to have a surgery to alter your body to make you look like a female, go for it. I'm not stopping you. The doctor isn't stopping you. There isn't a protest outside the hospital stopping you. You have the freedom to do so. But do not confuse and do not make the mistake in thinking that even if it's your right to do so, that means that the rest of society either has to pay for that or that we have to agree and accept that. Okay, I have rights too. I have the right to freedom of speech. I have the right to keep and bear arms. I have all kinds of rights. However, what you are saying right now in making the argument that I have to agree with you or that I have to fund your right would be the equivalent of me saying, because I have the right to freedom of speech and to support and to keep and bear arms, you have to pay for my YouTube channel so that I can get paid for my freedom of speech, and you have to pay for any gun that I might want in the future and any future ammunition that I might need because that's my right. I'm willing to bet right now that everyone who just heard me say that is probably offended to some degree, or that they're saying like, no, I don't. Okay, well, no, I don't either then. Okay, right means you have the right to pursue it. Right means that you have access to these things, but you still have to pay for them. Obviously, we have exceptions, you know, like police officers, firefighters, because we deal with those people on a daily basis. Those people do protect our lives. So it makes sense that us being taxed to pay those guys makes sense. But you as an individual, you aren't providing something huge for society in being transgender. You're not saving lives. You're not even a federal figure. You're not a federal government figure. You're not out there defending and fighting for the rights or lives of others. You are literally fighting and defending for your own rights. And if that's the case, then that's your responsibility to fund that. Okay, I never expected anyone to pay for my guns that I bought. I don't expect people to continue paying for ammunition that I have to may pay for, because that is my personal individual right. And even on that front, I have more room to argue that you should be able to pay for that right, because in me keeping and bearing arms, I am essentially acting as someone who would protect someone else's life. The fact that I have a gun would give me more room to say you have to fund my rights, because my rights more directly are associated with protecting other people's rights and lives. Whereas you're just saying that you want to have a surgery that alters your vagina and or penis into the opposite because feelings. Now, I want to end this off obviously very, very, I don't have my clock. You know, if I want to end this on a positive note, here's really all I guess I can really say. Just consider what I said about society. Just, I mean, imagine, regardless of whether I agree with you or not, I'll go a step further. Let's say that I agree with you. Let's say, okay, sure, I think that we should have, everyone should have a gender classification. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one. Well, what's that going to look like in society? How is that going to manifest itself on application forms? Do you know how long those things would be if we had to put, you know, a checklist of of every single gender, and if you're one of those people who, maybe we can find common ground. If you're one of those people who says like, okay, well, I'm okay with just putting other, then okay, cool, then we can stop there. That's common ground found. I'm okay with that. But if you're not okay with the other, then you really have to start considering and thinking about what would have to happen in order for any applications from now on to look like. And honestly, I would expect you to get involved in that. This is your fight. Make the difference happen, make the change happen. I imagine that would be too inconvenient for a lot of people out there, but it would be your responsibility at that point to get involved to make that happen. But I can guarantee you that it would take a long time to try and pass something, because I don't know if you even have anything passed, because to have all of the genders put on one form is almost impossible. And it's literally just much easier to say, hey, were you born with a penis or a vagina? Which one? Just mark that one on the application. And then if you want to talk with your employer or whatever later about, hey, well, this is what I put on the application, but this is what I feel like, you can have that conversation with them later. And furthermore, I just want to make sure that I end this on a positive note. I know I feel like I got a little bit slightly annoyed by this topic today, but I sincerely want to make it known and clear and sure that again, just because I disagree with people out there who might think differently than me, that doesn't mean that I don't care less about you or that I'm trying to dehumanize you or anything like that. I'm just speaking what I believe to be basic truths that we should have as a society to maintain order, and from a theological standpoint, I mean, I can't say that I know exactly what you're going through. I mean, I gave my personal account of how I grew up, how my brain worked as a kid. That's probably the closest that I can really relate to anyone out there who identifies as a different gender, that's not male or female, like all these other weird ones that I've never even heard of. But I mean, like, but it's, I've gone through that. Again, this goes back to that, judge lest not you be judged, for by the standard that which you judge others, you shall be judged. Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye when you have a log in your own? Remove the log from your own eye first, that way you may be able to better help the person remove the speck from his eye. That's paraphrased, obviously. I got the concept out there. I'm not judging from a place of condemnation. I'm simply judging from my own personal experience, from a place of love and maybe it might not be interpreted as love, but I do genuinely care about everyone out there who fits into this category of transgenderism, or someone who doesn't feel like that they're a male or female, and that they're one of these other genders out there. But I just really do believe, and I really do think, that road that you guys are going down is not going to make you happy, and it's going to lead to further consequences. It's going to lead to a more miserable lifestyle, and all I'm just trying to do is help you see my side of the story. Hopefully, maybe get some people to maybe at least consider or think about my point of view. And I can guarantee you that if you give it a shot, if you give it an honest, fair shot, that you'd be surprised as to the results. I really believe in the concept of the truth shall set you free. I really believe that if people can come to grips with at least how they are physically, that things may or may not change for them. But even if you don't, I'm not trying to change you as a person, but I'm just saying that even if you can just come to the point where you, like Blair White, who can at least accept the fact that he was born a male, and then he makes decisions based on that because he doesn't like the way he was born, that's different. And I really believe that at least those people will live better lives than those people out there right now who think that they are a gender that they aren't, who won't at least acknowledge or accept the fact that that is who they were born as, but that they want to be something else. That's really just the point that I want to get in all of this. Okay, I didn't grow up my life believing that I was a woman just because I had more feminine qualities to myself. I accepted the fact that I was a guy who had feminine qualities. Therefore, I am making the judgment based on my own personal experience, and I really believe that anyone out there who's going through something similar to this, but to more obviously a more extreme example when we're talking about genders, I really encourage you guys to examine yourself, to really think about what I said. I guarantee you that you're not going to grow a life, or you're not going to lead a life being happy when you depend on others for that happiness. I really don't believe that you're going to live a happy life living when you're making decisions that have negative consequences. And I'm not even talking, let's just pretend God doesn't exist, okay? For those of you who don't believe in God. Even if you don't believe in God, there are chemical reactions that happen to you when you do certain things. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. There's a chemical reaction in your brain that in the men's brain that happens when they're exposed to pornography or the picture of a naked woman, and they will attach their brain chemistry will essentially attach itself to whatever person they essentially kind of find pleasure in, most prominently the first one. And so even if God doesn't exist, even if morals don't exist, from a biological standpoint, who you decide to essentially have sex with first as a man, or whether you decide to engage in pornography, that does affect your chemical brain. It does affect how you think. People who do pornography, men who do pornography and women who do pornography, are more prone to be depressed, to not be able to function as human beings better. They're less likely to be satisfied in marriages. These things have all been scientifically proven true. Now, obviously, if you're going to just dismiss biology and science just on the sole basis that if you're born with a penis, you're a man, and if you're born with a vagina, then you're a woman, then obviously those studies don't mean anything to you. But that also doesn't mean that they're any less true. And so all I'm trying to do is get people. I'm trying to warn people, and tell them that these things are real, whether you believe in God or not. That what your decisions have when it comes to sexually related themes does affect your brain chemistry, and it can cause damage. And I can't say if it's irreversible, but it can cause significant brain damage that will cause you to lead a life of misery. It will cause you to lead a life of dependency on others' approval, for your own satisfaction, and it will just on the sole basis that you can't come to grips with who you are as a person. It's going to cause you to lead a more depressed life. And so, if anything, I mean, you might be calling me names right now. I really don't know what's going on the other side of the screen, but given the fact that I just gave you facts and data as to what your lifestyle is doing that's causing you to live a horrible lifestyle, if that makes me a bad person, if that makes me a transphobe, well then I guess I'm just going to have to be a transphobe the rest of my life, because I'm sorry that I care about people's well-beings out there. I'm sorry that I care that I want people to have good, decent lives, etc., etc., etc. That's basically all I got for the day. I think I probably missed some stuff, but I still got a couple more weeks throughout this month to finish up any final thoughts that I might have. But that is part 2 of this topic of the genders, of all the genders, whichever ones they are. Let me guys know what you think in the comments below. Again, I'm always open, private message. If you guys have any questions, if you guys want to talk to me about God offline, or ask me any further questions offline, you don't feel comfortable doing so in the comments below, feel free to message me. I always like talking to people and all that stuff. So I think that's going to be it for this one. So I'll see you guys in the next video. I don't know what I'll be talking about then. We'll see. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you later. This is the Conservative Christian signing out until next time.